I worked for Daimler-Benz, Mercedes-Benz.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was ordered to work there. I started out in a bank, but then because we had so many young males that were killed, you know, and so they had to replace. They had to give up employees to work in the industry.
Right.
And I didn't want to work there in the industry. I mean, I was an office person, and I went to this personnel director of Mercedes-Benz, and told him that I thought it was a total waste of talent if they put me on a
line
conveyor.
Right. Yeah.
And he listened to me and said, "Well, I'll take a chance if you tell me that you won't if you promise me that you won't tell anyone," which of course I did, you know. So I worked there in the office in the investment replacement department for Mercedes-Benz until I came to the States.
So tell me how you met your husband.
My husband was working in he was a sergeant in an ordnance. And they confiscated some of the trucks and the equipment that could be used for them to replace some of their equipment that was destroyed. And so they constantly had a liaison person to go to Daimler-Benz, and that's how I met him.
And what year did you meet your husband?
How many?
What year did you meet your husband?
We were engaged in 1946. That was after the war.
After the war.
He was stationed over there, and he was in the process of being sent home. But when then he had to sign up for another 18 months after we met, because he wanted to make sure that I could come to the States with him.
Okay.
And I had to leave Germany within 2 months of us getting married, because the German government wouldn't give me no more ration cards. And I lost my German citizenship.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was quite a sacrifice.
It was quite a decision. Yeah.
So tell me about the process of leaving Germany and your family behind.
Well, the German people didn't like the idea that German women would marry American soldiers. They married the enemy. There was no peace treaty yet.
Right.
And you had to get special permission, and you also had to be married by a German authority first before you could get married by the military government. And so that's another story that we had relatives invited for a dinner, a wedding dinner in a restaurant. And the restaurant told us how many ration cards we had to bring there, you know, to cook for so many people. Mm-hmm. And we had done all that. And then we went to the military government to get married, and the secretary said, "Well, he is boar hunting this weekend." He went to go boar hunting. So we stood there, and I said, "What are we going to do now?" We had our best man with us, you know, and we stood there. I said to my husband, "What are we going to do now?" He says, "We are going to the dinner, and don't tell anybody what happened."
That you're not quite
and
married
everybody
yet.
Congratulated us, and we just kept mum
and you just
until the next day, the next possible time we could get an appointment there, you know. Yeah.
So it was a little preemptive. That's okay. So how did you decide to up and leave your home and make it all the way here to the United States?
We of course we were attracted to each other, and we were in love, and it was a terrible decision to leave my parents, because things were really bad then yet. But I kind of thought, well, I can really be of more help to them over here than I can there. And we did send care packages and all that, but that didn't last very long. Germany made a quick recovery. thanks to the
Marshall Plan.
Marshall
Yes.
Plan. Yeah, yeah.
So you arrived in the United States.
And it
And
was
then?
a culture shock.
Tell me about that process.
I grew up in a big city with all the transportation that we needed and everything. And my husband was born in, he was born in Tennessee and raised in Kentucky.
Okay.
And his fellow soldiers, they said, "You know what you're doing? You're marrying a hillbilly?" So I said, "Well, you know, I like him, and this is it." And they said, "Oh, you don't know the stories about Kentucky. You know, they have to shoot the potatoes up the hillside to plant them."
So you arrived from
We
Germany to Kentucky.
To Kentucky, where the people were extremely nice, very, very hospitable, and everybody welcomed me in the family. There were some of them that had, well, there was an aunt of my husband's who lost a son in the war, you know, and she was a little cold toward me, but not to the point where I felt it, you know. But everybody was kind of curious. There comes a enemy, you know. Now the peace treaty was done quite a bit later. That was in May of 45.
45, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when we started to get our paperwork together, I had to get affidavits from my old school teachers, from minister that confirmed me. You wouldn't believe what all I had to present to let them give me the permission to come.
So it was a difficult process to get through, just to get out of the country in the first place.
Yeah. And my passage from Germany, that's just a little something, you know. My passage from Germany to New York City was $8.
$8.
That's what I
Imagine that.
Oh, the government paid for it, you know.
Well, that's not too terrible.
Yeah.
That's not too terrible.
Yeah. And then we got on a Greyhound bus in Camp, it was Camp Kilmer, where my husband had to be discharged. Then we went on a Greyhound bus and went to good old Kentucky. And when I saw the conditions in Kentucky, as we were traveling through the countryside, there were the wash machines were sitting on the porches and all that. And I thought, my gosh, what am I getting into? And then my husband couldn't find work right away. And so he had a niece living in Monroe, Michigan, who was married there, and her husband had a good job as a bookkeeper somewhere over there. She says, "You come up here." She was anxious to meet me.
Of course.
Come up here, you can find a job. Well, we didn't have the money for him and me to travel up there. You know, we had $350 between the two of us.
Wow.
That was his
Discharge money.
mastering out pay. And so he's given, I think, well, I shouldn't say that. Well, at any rate, he came up here, and within 2 weeks he called me. He said, "I got a job." And from then on, we lived in Michigan. And I have been very happy to choose my Michigan as my home state ever since I moved here, because it reminded me of my childhood vacations at the Baltic Sea. There was the sand, birch trees, blue skies, water. It was just like vacation, you know.
So you're going back to your roots, in a sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the way it felt.
And so you've been here ever since?
Yeah.
What an amazing story.
And I made a number of trips home. I took my children home and occasionally with me, and we had then a contact. My mother came over, my sister came over, so that became possible ever so slowly. You know, you had to have money to do it. Yeah.
Wow, what an incredible story. Wow.
It was just a life. It was just one life of many, many, many.
Well, I thank you very much for sharing it with us today.
Okay, yeah,
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Eva,
And
thank you.
I hope that we see each other again. You working at school, correct?
Yes, yes. We will be seeing each other soon.
Yeah,
For sure.
okay.
So that concludes our session with Eva Cobb. Thank you for sharing that story with us.
You're very welcome.
We hope to have you back soon and to hear more about this amazing journey that you've had. And for Friendship Focus, I'm Errin Stegich. Thank you very much for watching.